Unit 3. Welcome to Unit 3. In this section, we will explore key cybersecurity concepts, including web application vulnerabilities, password cracking techniques, SQL injection, buffer overflows, wireless hacking, and penetration testing methodologies. These Web application vulnerabilities. In this chapter, we will cover various web application vulnerabilities, including web application hacking techniques, common threats, Google hacking, and countermeasures. Web applications are a major target for attackers, so understanding these risks is critical. Web application hacking. Web application hacking involves exploiting vulnerabilities in web-based software. Some of the most common attack methods include injection attacks, where flaws like SQL injection are used to manipulate data. Cross-site scripting, or XSS, involves injecting malicious scripts into websites. Authentication and session management attacks aim to steal session tokens or bypass authentication mechanisms. Cross-site request forgery, or CSRF, tricks users into performing unintended actions on a site. File inclusion exploits allow attackers to access or execute unauthorized files. Security Web application threats. Web application threats target security vulnerabilities and can compromise the integrity of a system. SQL injection is a technique where malicious SQL code is used to manipulate databases. Cross-site scripting injects scripts that execute in users' browsers. Cross-site request forgery makes users unknowingly execute unwanted actions. Broken access control allows attackers to gain unauthorized access to sensitive data. Security misconfigurations can be exploited to gain deeper system access. Denial of service and distributed denial of service attacks attempt to overload servers, causing downtime. Using outdated or vulnerable components increases the risk of exploitation. Insecure deserialization allows attackers to exploit the way data is processed. Insufficient logging and monitoring prevent organizations from detecting malicious activity in time. Google hacking. Google hacking, also known as Google dorking, is a technique used to find hidden or sensitive information on the internet using advanced search queries. It works by leveraging Google's search operators, such as cite, enurl, and file type, to refine searches and uncover confidential information. Security professionals use this technique to identify vulnerabilities in websites, but malicious actors can also misuse it to find exposed systems. If sensitive information is not properly secured, it can lead to security breaches and privacy violations. Protection measures include properly configuring robots.txt files, using noindex and nofollow tags, conducting regular security audits, limiting file and directory permissions, and encrypting sensitive data. Web-based password cracking techniques. This chapter focuses on password security, different password cracking techniques, and protective measures. Passwords are the first line of defense against unauthorized access. Weak passwords can lead to data breaches, identity theft, and financial loss. Understanding how attackers break passwords helps in developing stronger security defenses. Introduction to password security. Passwords play a vital role in protecting sensitive data and accounts. Weak passwords increase the risk of data breaches, identity theft, and financial loss. Attackers use various methods to crack passwords, making it essential to implement strong password security practices. Authentication types. Authentication is the process of verifying a user's identity before granting access. Basic authentication sends credentials in plain text, making it insecure. Digest authentication improves security by hashing passwords before transmission. Form-based authentication is the most common method, using web forms to collect credentials and manage user sessions with cookies. Multi-factor authentication provides stronger security by requiring multiple verification factors, such as a password, a security token, or a biometric factor. Understanding these authentication methods helps improve online security. Password crackers. Password cracking tools are used to recover or break passwords. Hashcat is a powerful tool known for its efficiency and support for multiple attack methods. John the Ripper is widely used for testing password security due to its flexibility. Rainbow tables contain precomputed hash password mappings, enabling fast password decryption. These tools are commonly used by attackers, but security professionals also rely on them to test and strengthen password security. Cracking techniques. Attackers use different techniques to crack passwords. Dictionary attacks try common words and phrases in an attempt to guess passwords. Brute force attacks systematically try all possible character combinations. Rainbow table attacks use precomputed hash password mappings for faster cracking. Credential stuffing involves using leaked credentials from other websites to access user accounts. Social engineering manipulates users into revealing their passwords through deception. Organizations can mitigate these attacks by enforcing strong password policies, limiting login attempts, and implementing multi-factor authentication. Conclusion. Password cracking remains a significant threat in cybersecurity. Organizations and individuals must stay vigilant by enforcing strong security practices. Implementing effective countermeasures can significantly reduce the risk of password compromise. Understanding the risks associated with weak passwords and learning how attackers exploit them is essential for maintaining secure systems. Countermeasures. There are several strategies to protect against password cracking attacks. Enforcing strong password policies ensures that passwords are long and complex, making them harder to guess. Implementing account lockout mechanisms prevents attackers from making unlimited login attempts. Rate limiting restricts the number of login attempts from a single IP address. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security beyond just passwords. Salting and hashing passwords make it more difficult for attackers to decrypt them. Password managers help users create and store complex passwords securely. Regular security audits ensure that vulnerabilities are identified and addressed before they can be exploited. These measures help strengthen authentication security and protect against unauthorized access. SQL injection. SQL injection is a serious web security vulnerability that allows attackers to manipulate databases through malicious SQL queries. This type of attack can lead to unauthorized data access, data modification, and even complete system compromise. Understanding SQL injection and implementing protective measures is crucial for maintaining database security. What is SQL injection? SQL injection is a technique used to exploit vulnerabilities in web applications by injecting malicious SQL code into input fields. This attack can allow unauthorized access to sensitive data, modification or deletion of records, and sometimes even total control over the database. An example of a basic SQL injection attack involves entering specially crafted SQL statements into login forms to bypass authentication. If user input is not properly sanitized, an attacker can manipulate queries and gain unauthorized access to the system. Steps of SQL injection. The first step in SQL injection is identifying vulnerable input fields in web applications, such as login forms, search bars, or other database-connected inputs. Once a vulnerability is found, an attacker injects malicious SQL code to manipulate database queries. By doing so, they can retrieve sensitive data, modify or delete records, and execute harmful commands. Common SQL injection techniques include using special characters like single quotes, comments, or SQL keywords to alter database queries. Proper input validation and query parameterization are essential to prevent such attacks. SQL Server vulnerabilities. Several vulnerabilities can make a system susceptible to SQL injection. Improper input sanitization allows attackers to inject malicious code due to a lack of filtering. Dynamic SQL statements, which directly incorporate user input into queries, increase the risk of exploitation. Insufficient database permissions can provide attackers with excessive privileges, allowing them to manipulate critical data. Detailed error messages can also expose database structures, helping attackers refine their attacks. Implementing secure coding practices and applying strict database permissions can help mitigate these risks. Types of SQL injection. There are different types of SQL injection attacks. In-band SQL injection includes error-based attacks, where attackers use error messages to extract database information, and union-based attacks, which combine multiple queries to retrieve additional data. Blind SQL injection involves time-based and Boolean-based techniques, where attackers infer database behavior without visible output. Out-of-band SQL injection is less common and relies on the database sending requests to an external system. Each type of attack exploits weaknesses in query processing, making it essential to apply protective measures such as parameterized queries and input validation. Countermeasures. Defending against SQL injection requires multiple security measures. Using prepared statements and parameterized queries ensures that user input is treated as data rather than executable code. Stored procedures help separate user input from SQL execution. Input validation techniques such as whitelisting and escaping prevent malicious input from altering queries. Applying the least privilege principle ensures that database accounts have only the necessary permissions to minimize damage if compromised. Database firewalls can detect and block SQL injection attempts. Regular security audits and penetration testing help identify and fix vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. Best practices. To prevent SQL injection, it is essential to keep software updated and patch known vulnerabilities in databases and web applications. Developers should be trained on secure coding practices to avoid introducing SQL injection flaws. Web application firewalls provide additional protection by filtering out malicious requests. Monitoring database activity can help detect suspicious behavior early. Following these best practices reduces the risk of SQL injection attacks and strengthens overall system security. Conclusion. SQL injection remains one of the most dangerous threats to web application security. By understanding how these attacks work and implementing proper countermeasures, organizations can significantly reduce the risk. Staying proactive in security efforts through continuous monitoring, secure coding, and regular testing is essential for preventing SQL injection and protecting sensitive data. Buffer overflows. Buffer overflows are critical vulnerabilities in software security. This chapter explores what buffer overflows are, their types, exploitation techniques, and countermeasures. Understanding buffer overflows is crucial for developers and security professionals to prevent potential attacks that could lead to system crashes or unauthorized access. What is a buffer overflow? A buffer overflow occurs when a program writes more data into a memory buffer than it can hold, causing excess data to overwrite adjacent memory locations. This can lead to unpredictable behavior, application crashes, data corruption, and in some cases, execution of malicious code. An analogy for this is pouring too much water into a glass, causing it to spill over. In the case of a buffer overflow, the excess data overflows into other memory areas, potentially compromising system security. Types of buffer overflows. There are different types of buffer overflow attacks. Stack-based buffer overflows occur when excess data overwrites the return address in the call stack, allowing an attacker to execute arbitrary code. Heap-based buffer overflows happen in dynamically allocated memory and can be more complex to exploit. Integer overflows occur when arithmetic operations result in a number exceeding the storage capacity of a variable, leading to unexpected behavior. Each of these vulnerabilities poses a serious risk if not properly mitigated. Stack-based buffer overflows. Stack-based buffer overflows are the most common type of buffer overflow attack. In this type of attack, an attacker deliberately writes excessive data into a buffer, causing it to overwrite critical memory structures such as the return address of a function. By manipulating the return address, the attacker can redirect execution flow to malicious code, gaining control over the system. This technique is widely used in exploit development and can lead to full system compromise if not properly addressed. Mutation techniques. Mutation techniques are used by attackers to bypass security mechanisms such as intrusion detection systems and antivirus software. Encoding techniques change the representation of exploit code, such as using hexadecimal encoding to obfuscate payloads. Polymorphism generates multiple variations of an exploit while maintaining its core functionality, making it harder to detect. Fragmentation breaks an exploit into smaller pieces, reassembling them only when executed, reducing detection likelihood. These techniques make buffer overflow attacks more sophisticated and difficult to detect. Exploit development brief overview. The process of exploit development for buffer overflow vulnerabilities involves several key steps. Attackers first identify vulnerabilities using techniques like fuzzing, code analysis, and reverse engineering. Once a vulnerability is found, they craft an exploit using shellcode, which is the malicious code intended to be executed. The goal is to overwrite critical memory locations, such as the return address, to redirect execution flow to the shellcode. By successfully gaining control over the affected system, an attacker can execute arbitrary commands, leading to data theft or full system takeover. Countermeasures. Several security measures help prevent buffer overflow attacks. Secure coding practices, such as input validation and bounds checking, ensure that buffers are not overfilled. Using safe functions like strncpy instead of strcpy can reduce the risk of overflows. Compiler-based protections such as stack canaries detect and prevent buffer overflow exploitation. Address space layout randomization, ASLR, randomizes memory addresses, making it harder for attackers to predict and manipulate memory locations. Hardware protections like data execution prevention, DEP, prevent execution of code in non-executable memory regions, adding another layer of defense. Conclusion. Buffer overflows remain a serious security risk that can lead to system crashes, data corruption, and arbitrary code execution. Understanding how buffer overflows work is crucial for both developers and security professionals. By implementing secure coding practices, compiler protections, and hardware security measures, organizations can reduce the risk of buffer overflow attacks. Continuous updates and security testing are essential to stay ahead of evolving threats. Wireless networks present unique security challenges that attackers can exploit. This chapter explores wireless hacking techniques, including vulnerabilities in wireless encryption protocols, authentication mechanisms, rogue access points, and countermeasures to secure wireless networks. Securing wireless networks. Wireless hacking involves exploiting weaknesses in wireless networks to gain unauthorized access. Attackers may target wireless networks for data theft, network disruption, or other malicious purposes. Wireless networks are widely used, but many are poorly secured, making them attractive targets for attackers. Weak encryption, outdated security protocols, and misconfigured access points increase the risk of wireless attacks. Understanding these risks and implementing strong security measures is essential to protect wireless networks from unauthorized access and malicious activities. Wireless security protocols. Wireless security protocols are designed to protect data transmitted over wireless networks. Wired Equivalent Privacy, WEP, was an early security protocol but is now considered highly insecure due to vulnerabilities in its encryption mechanism. Attackers can crack WEP encryption using initialization vector, for attacks and tools like aircracking. Wi-Fi Protected Access, WPA, and WPA2 improve security by introducing stronger encryption methods such as TKIP and CCMP. Despite these improvements, attackers can still crack WPA/WPA2 networks using dictionary attacks and handshake capture techniques. Security tools like Hashcat and John the Ripper are commonly used for password cracking. The latest standard, WPA3, offers enhanced protection against brute force attacks and ensures stronger encryption. Wireless sniffers. Wireless sniffers are tools used to capture and analyze network traffic. These tools can be used for legitimate purposes such as network monitoring and troubleshooting, but attackers also use them to intercept sensitive data. Wireshark is one of the most powerful packet analyzers available, allowing users to inspect network packets in detail. Aircracking is a suite of tools specifically designed for assessing Wi-Fi security. Wireless sniffing allows attackers to gather information about connected devices, identify security vulnerabilities, and intercept unencrypted communications. Encrypting wireless traffic and using secure authentication mechanisms can help protect against wireless sniffing attacks. Rogue access points. A rogue access point is an unauthorized wireless access point set up within the range of a legitimate network. Attackers use rogue access points to intercept network traffic and launch man-in-the-middle attacks. These attacks allow them to capture sensitive information, such as login credentials and financial data. Rogue access points can be disguised as legitimate networks, tricking users into connecting to them. Detecting rogue access points requires regular wireless network scans and the use of intrusion detection systems. Organizations can enhance security by implementing strict network access controls and monitoring for unauthorized devices. Securing wireless networks. Protecting wireless networks requires implementing strong security measures. Using WPA3 or WPA2 with strong passwords ensures better encryption and authentication. Disabling Wi-Fi Protected Setup, WPS, prevents attackers from exploiting known vulnerabilities in WPS protocols. MAC address filtering allows only authorized devices to connect to the network. Regularly changing Wi-Fi passwords reduces the risk of unauthorized access. Network segmentation isolates sensitive data and limits potential damage from a security breach. Wireless intrusion detection and prevention systems help monitor and prevent malicious activity on wireless networks. Implementing these security measures reduces the risk of wireless hacking and ensures a safer network environment. Conclusion. Wireless hacking poses a serious threat to both individuals and organizations. Understanding the vulnerabilities in wireless networks is essential to implementing effective defenses. By using strong encryption, securing authentication mechanisms, and continuously monitoring wireless activity, organizations can prevent unauthorized access and mitigate potential risks. Staying informed about emerging threats and security best practices is crucial for maintaining wireless network security. Penetration testing methodologies. Penetration testing is a simulated cyber attack conducted to identify and fix security vulnerabilities. This chapter covers different penetration testing methodologies, key testing steps, commonly used automated tools, and how penetration testing reports help improve security. Understanding penetration testing methodologies is crucial for evaluating and strengthening cybersecurity defenses. What is penetration testing? Penetration testing involves simulating a real-world cyber attack to assess the security of a system or network. The goal is to identify vulnerabilities before attackers can exploit them. Penetration testing helps organizations validate security controls, prioritize vulnerabilities, and improve their overall security posture. It is also essential for meeting regulatory compliance requirements and ensuring that cybersecurity defenses remain effective against evolving threats. Penetration testing methodologies. Different methodologies guide penetration testing processes. The Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP, focuses on identifying and mitigating web application vulnerabilities. The Penetration Testing Execution Standard, PTS, provides a structured approach for conducting comprehensive security assessments. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, offers guidelines for conducting cybersecurity testing in various environments. The Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual, OSSTM, provides detailed testing methodologies for security professionals. Choosing the right methodology ensures that penetration testing is effective and aligned with organizational security goals. Penetration testing steps. Penetration testing follows a structured approach. The first step is pre-engagement interactions, where the scope, rules of engagement, and legal agreements are defined. Intelligence gathering involves passive and active reconnaissance to collect information about the target. Threat modeling helps identify potential attack vectors. Vulnerability analysis is conducted using automated tools and manual testing techniques. Exploitation attempts to exploit identified vulnerabilities to determine the impact of a successful attack. Post-exploitation simulates attacker actions such as privilege escalation and data exfiltration. The final step is reporting, where findings, exploited vulnerabilities, and security recommendations are documented for remediation. Automated tools. Various automated tools are used in penetration testing. Vulnerability scanners such as Nessus and OpenVAS identify security weaknesses in networks and systems. Exploitation frameworks like Metasploit allow testers to simulate real-world attacks. Network scanning tools such as Nmap help discover active hosts, open ports, and services running on a network. Web application security tools like Burp Suite and OWASP SAP analyze and test for web vulnerabilities. These tools enhance the efficiency of penetration testing by automating vulnerability discovery and exploitation. Pen test deliverables. Penetration testing results are documented in detailed reports. The executive summary provides a high-level overview of key findings and recommendations. The technical report includes in-depth details of vulnerabilities, exploitation methods, and remediation steps. The vulnerability assessment section prioritizes discovered vulnerabilities based on their severity. Remediation recommendations provide specific guidance on how to fix identified security weaknesses. In some cases, a code review is conducted to identify vulnerabilities within application source code. A well-documented penetration test report is essential for improving security and addressing vulnerabilities effectively. Choosing the right methodology. Several factors should be considered when selecting a penetration testing methodology. The scope of the test must align with organizational security objectives. Industry regulations and compliance requirements influence testing standards. The target environment, whether it is a web application, network, or mobile system, determines the testing approach. Budget and time constraints impact the depth and duration of penetration testing. Internal expertise and available tools also play a role in selecting the most suitable methodology. Choosing the right approach ensures that penetration testing provides valuable insights into security risks. Conclusion. Penetration testing is a crucial component of cybersecurity, helping organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities before they can be exploited by attackers. By proactively conducting security assessments, organizations can strengthen their defenses, enhance incident response strategies, and reduce the risk of cyber attacks. Selecting the appropriate penetration testing methodology and using the right tools ensures a comprehensive security evaluation. Continuous security testing and improvement are essential for staying ahead of evolving cyber threats.